and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a Monday weekend wrap-up. Um, Late to the party, in large part because my entire weekend was dedicated to one and only purpose, and that was spending time with my family the entire time. It was my wife's birthday on Sunday, and so she was able to go out with some friends on most of the day Saturday, and then I was helping her out in the garden all day yesterday, getting her garden started and everything. So I did not have much time for reading, much less sitting down and making a video. So here I am to talk about what I've finished in like the last week and a half, as well as what I'm currently reading. So we'll start with the obvious. We have Lord of the Rings. So I finished Return of the King. Very happy. I have not gone back to the appendices yet, but I plan to do so at some point in time. Sometime probably later this year. I'm not going to rush it. But when the mood strikes, I'm definitely going to give them another good read through. As always, I absolutely loved the experience of rereading Two Towers and Return of the King alongside Steve Donahue and Tony from An Erudite Adventure. My plan this week is to get my last video up where I talk about the final 4 chapters of Return of the King sometime this week. So we'll get that buttoned up. And then I will probably also try and knock out Bilbo's Last Song, which I believe is the unofficial ending follow-up to Return of the King. I have it on my e-reader. Next we have one of the most distant things I finished. I finished Volume 3 of Essential X-Men. I don't remember if I had talked about this at any point in time, so that's why I'm bringing it up now. Absolutely enjoyed it. This basically kicks off shortly after the Dark Phoenix saga, and covers a whole bunch of really good comics. Of course, the timeline that I picked this up particularly because Shadowcat, who at this point in time is called Sprite, following her adventures and misadventures. And there were some really, really good ones in here. A couple where she's not involved at all. But by and large, really, really solid comics all the way through here. I am excited to get more after this. Probably not in the Essential line because I'm not a big fan of the black and white. I find that I do far better at reading, and especially depending on the lighting. I found that I needed to have a lot brighter lighting in order to really enjoy that comic, whereas if it was in color, I don't struggle nearly as much. I finished Bond Undone. This is book 2 in the Legends of the Condor Hero series by Jin Yong. So this is translated from Chinese, and it is phenomenal, fantastic. I think I liked the first book a little bit better than book 2, but book 2 was still fantastic. Absolutely delighted. So this is the book that my wife got me for Valentine's Day. So I rolled right into it. Enjoyed every minute of it. And I have books 3 and 4 on my Kindle. So I will be continuing this series. That's one of my goals, is to try to delve further into things I'm enjoying and actually finish some series. So this is one that I'm planning to finish before the end of the year. And then the other one that I have finished was this, The Wind's 12 Quarters. These are short stories by Ursula K. Le Guin. Did this as a buddy read with Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads, and we read about a story a day. We took a little break in the middle of March, which I think actually was beneficial because, as a whole, the stories in here were not great. There were some really good ideas, some interesting ideas, and I think Greg and I both had the agreement that when Le Guin is writing these stories, it is the story or the ideas that she's trying to put forth are first and foremost on her mind, and she's trying to tag a little bit of a story alongside it to express those ideas. The problem is those stories tend to be incredibly non-exciting. They're dull. They lack pacing, they lack development beyond those ideas, and a lot of them. There are some exceptions to that, of course. There are some ones that are enjoyable. The ones who walk away from novellas, of course, is one that everybody knows. I found it to be fine. It didn't blow me away, but there were a couple of standout ones in here. The one I enjoyed the most was The Stars Below, which was really, really good. I enjoyed that one a lot more than Greg did. That one actually felt more like a fleshed out story compared to just a vessel for ideas. And the way I kind of elaborated when talking with Greg and Voxer was I used the story by Harlan Ellison, Repent Harlequin, said the TikTok man, as a contrast to this. That it's got some really great ideas in there, but it also has a really captivating, engaging story with good characters, that it's memorable moments. So the blending of those two is what makes a great short story that sticks with you. And the Le Guin short story is just not. I have one Le Guin on my shelf, Left Hand of Darkness. I intend to get to it at some point. But I have a strong suspicion that I'm going to end up putting Le Guin in the same category where Becky Chambers ended up, where I don't know that this author is just right for me. I'm glad that other people read and love and enjoy their writings. And I'm also okay with having an author where I can say, you know what, I'm okay with passing up on this. I've got plenty to read, so it's not like I'm going to run into a shortage to where, well, gosh, I'm out of other things to read, so I guess I'm going to have to pick up Becky Chambers and Ursula K. Le Guin. I'm going to die long before that ever happens. So what am I currently reading? I am listening to an audiobook of The Chessmen of Mars. This one's a really bizarre one so far. It doesn't follow John Carter, it follows his daughter. Really, really bizarre so far. I'm about a third of the way in. And this is, so far, based on this first third, is probably going to be my least favorite so far of the Barsoom novels. But still, it's good. It's well written. It's got good pacing. Interesting stuff. But, yeah, I'm not so sure. Although, that cover does make me, think that there's going to be something that's worthwhile along the way. That's going to elevate it a little bit higher. I am into Beowulf. I'm so happy about that. A month of Beowulf. What better thing could you ask for? I have not actually started into Beowulf. I read the preface and the introduction. And I had a couple of different possibilities on what I was going to do with my evening tonight. And decided to make videos to talk to all of you. And to do some of those other side things I need to get accomplished, rather than just spend the evening reading all of this Beowulf translation. But I'm going to try to chip away at it a little bit later tonight and then tomorrow, and probably have it finished up tomorrow. And then I'll save the commentary. I'll probably skip the commentary, go to the Selleck spell, and then the Lay of Beowulf at the end, and then chip away at the commentary throughout the course of the month. Not that I'm going to skip the commentary, as in I don't want to read it, because I very much do. And seeing Steve Donahue's video where he's talking about the work that Christopher Tolkien did, and talking about this, and then looking ahead. So I found out yesterday there's a new Tolkien book that's forthcoming, and it's coming out June 6th. It is The Battle of Mountain. Has some other stuff in there. And so it's Tolkien's translation of Battle of Mountain, which is a fantastic poem. One of my absolute favorites. So that already had me on board. But it's going to have an unpublished lecture by Tolkien on... I'm drawing a blank. Something to do with the Anglo-Saxon language and poetry. And that has me excited more than anything else. And it also reminded me that I need a copy of Monsters and the Critics for my shelf. I don't have one. I used to have one years and years ago, before the ill-advised purge that I went through years ago. And that is, I think, the one volume that I'm craving most on my shelf, because it is got some fantastic stuff, including things on Beowulf that I wouldn't be able to find in here, but some of his essays on Beowulf. And I really, really would love to dive into that later this month, but I'm not going to be able to. But, you know, I have a printed copy of Monsters and the Critics somewhere, the essay itself. It's just the other stuff that's in there that I'd be missing out on. And I'll probably dive into that essay at some point, and maybe even make a video talking about his essay. I am still chipping away. I'm nearing the 50% mark on a distant mirror. I get through 10 or 20 pages in an evening when I read it. I may end up doing my 10 or 20 pages of this after this video. We'll see. Beowulf's probably going to call me first. But I want to continue marching. I am hopeful that I will finish this book this month, because I want to get onto other things. But I don't want to get onto them until I finish this. It's not that I'm not enjoying this. Nonfiction does not make for very fast reading for me. And so it's a struggle some days to make big progress on this. Let's save that one for last. I'm also about halfway through on Bowie. This is a biography by Mark Spitz. I'm firmly into his Ziggy Stardust era right now in the book. So I'm getting close to catching up to where we are currently listening in our Sound and Vision project, which I need to make a video on this week as well, because we've passed the quarter mark. But what it is a few of us, Jack from Spread Bookjoy, MJ from Reading This Life, Vin from Revenant Reads, Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic, myself, I'm sure a couple others that I'm completely blanking on right now, are listening to a Bowie album. Every 2 weeks, we're doing a different one, going through his entire discography. So right now we are halfway through our 2-week span on listening to Diamond Dogs. And I'm absolutely enjoying every minute of that. It gives me a good excuse to throw on some music throughout the week, and visit and revisit a couple of times an album, because I find that the first time is to listen, the second time is to start to appreciate. And yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that and finishing this biography, hopefully also this month. But unfortunately, like Beowulf, something else has got me itching to be reading, and that is, I started reading Bradbury Speaks. So this is Too Soon from the Cave, Too Far from the Stars. These are essays by Ray Bradbury. I'm only about 10% of the way in here, but I have a hard time putting this down. Thankfully, so far the essays are anywhere from 2 to 5 or 6 pages long, so it's easy to read a couple of them. But this is, thankfully it's a short volume. It's, I think, about 200 pages. I want to keep reading this. And so, unfortunately, Bowie and A Distant Mirror are going to take second stage. I forgot to grab my Kindle. It's sitting on the stand behind me. But I forgot to mention, so tonight, before making this video, but after my previous video, while it was uploading, I finished Blood Music by Greg Bear. It was my first Greg Bear, and I absolutely enjoyed it. Some of the things I think went over my head clearly, especially late in the book. But really, really captivating, interesting concepts. And I'm excited to read more Greg Bear. And then I'm also currently reading on my Kindle Call of Atlantis. So this is the volume that matches these. I might as well just grab it. We'll just grab it. Why not? Alright, so there's the Greg Bear. Blood music. It's got to wake up. Come on. Alright, so I am in the middle of Cull. And my Kindle is being all funky. I'm going to turn it off and turn it back on again here real quick. See? It's being all crazy. That is not good at all. Okay, well, I'm going to restart this. So I'm reading Cull stories. I've got, I think, about 5 more stories to go through to get to the end of that. I'm pressing the restart and it's doing nothing. This is why e-readers suck. This is why e-readers suck. Technology. Okay. Anyway, we'll set that aside. And I'm slowly making my way through an introduction to Old English. This is by Jonathan Evans. And what I really, really like about this, and if I had gone faster through some of my other things, I was going to do another chapter of this tonight, but I've almost run out of time for that. So I'm probably going to forego that. But what I like is that the passages, so each chapter, I'm just going to open up to a chapter here, opens up with a reading that's about a paragraph long. And they come from things like chronicles, so it's prose, not poetry that's being translated. It's stuff that's historical documents and things like that, you know, documentation from King Alfred and whatnot. And those make for really easy things to translate in general. And I've been encouraged by how much of it I've been able to navigate pretty well. You know, obviously I'm far cry from being an expert at it. You know, towards the end they have advanced readings where they don't have any help, and those I'm still not going to be able to do very easily. But I guess at some point in time it ends on having these, but each of these early chapters at least has a vocabulary where it's got words that are new words that you haven't encountered yet, and their definition in there. I've also found that, okay, well, if it was included as vocabulary in chapter 1, well, here in chapter 3, when I see it again, if I don't remember what it is, it's not listed in chapter 3, I've got to go back to chapter 1 to look at that vocabulary list. So I've started doing some looking around online for some things to print out, to start making a kind of a collection of things. And so I found I've got to print more of it off tonight. The Old English newsletter. So there's, I think, at least 2 issues that are free online. And each issue is about 130 pages long. So I'm probably going to print those out, get them in a binder, and put that into my coming up soon rotation for Tuesdays. Right now I'm doing an issue of Asimov's Science Fiction, the March-April issue of that. So once that's done, I'm going to roll right into some Old English newsletters for my Tuesday readings. But I've got like a big bibliography of Anglo-Saxon Old English resources out there. Caedemon's story in Old English, which I'm excited to print out and work through. But what I'm really excited about is there's Old English aerobics, and it's 497 words. So the 497 most common words in the Old English texts. And so printing that out and having that as a reference is going to be exciting for me. But one thing that I found that I actually spent time with this tonight before making this video. I found a sample, just 2 pages. So, learn Old English with Leo Flynn. So, this is just one sample of a lesson in there. And there's a book, I think it's like 200 pages long, and it's full of exercises like this. So, you know, page 1, it's family members here that are talking and, describing relations to each other. And then it's answer the questions, and so it's got even more stuff. So you've got the people talking. It's got the Old English and the vocabulary at the bottom. And this was a delight. I found that I was having to look up very few words onto that vocabulary, and I was like, okay, this is what I need. So there's a website where I can buy it. Learn Old English with Beowulf. So once I am probably not off, probably before I get off the 500 book challenge. If I have to fail the challenge to get this, that's fine. But I do have a birthday coming up in early June. And so that might be something I wait and see if I get some money from somebody and go put it towards picking up that. Because by then I'll be probably, close to the halfway point in that introduction to Old English book, and probably ready for some of these examples and having a better comfort level with the Old English. But that's definitely a book that's on my horizon that I want to buy. And I found today that there is an Old English version of Alice in Wonderland. So somebody took Alice in Wonderland and translated it into Old English. So there's a book out there that is Alice in Wonderland in Old English, and I want that so much. Alice in Wonderland is one of my absolute favorite books. It's in my top 20 that I made last year. And I would love to have that. I wouldn't be ready to dive into it any more than I could grab, my volume of Beowulf that's all in Old English off the shelf and just start reading it. I'm not at that point yet. I don't know that I'll be there even by the end of this year. But to have that and to be able to dive into that at some point in time gets me excited. I enjoy some of the strangest things. I'm sure you think that. Unless you are Liam from Liam's Lyceum or Vin from Revenant Reads, in which case both of you are probably nodding and yeah. But there we go. I have done some Old English stuff, and I'm in no way, shape, or form ready to do any live recitations of anything in Old English. My pronunciation's probably going to be horrible because most of it is not something that I'm hearing, it's what I'm reading. And I'm hoping to find at some point in time a really good reference out there. Vin mentioned in one of his recent videos a person who's kind of a big scholar in Norse runes and Norse language in Old Norse, and I've since subscribed to that channel, and I'm like, I want what you are doing here, but I want in Old English. I want somebody that does what you're doing in Old English, and I haven't found that yet. So I'm hoping at some point in time maybe I'll come across somebody. Maybe that somebody will end up having to be someone like Vin or Liam, because it probably won't be me. I won't be able to do that anytime soon. But it's really, really, I'm excited about the Old English stuff. And that's why I saved it for the last, so that those of you that don't care can just tune out. So next weekend reading update, when I start talking about Old English, that's your point in time where you can just sign off. So there we go. I won't keep rambling here. Just know that I'm not going to update. So each day of the week, I have a different short story collection, a different comic that I'm reading. So today, for instance, I had some X-Men comics that I was reading, and I grabbed the science fiction Rise of America Guildmasters or Grandmasters, I think it is, collection, read a Robert Heinlein story. I may do occasional updates on those, but most of those I just going to be crawling along through. And when I get to the end, I'll update on the overall experience and what the standouts were. But I don't expect anything other than maybe some of the comics to get to an end anytime soon. So there we go. let's wrap this up so I can get to maybe a little bit of Beowulf or something before bed. And have a wonderful day.